There are streets people avoid at night. In the small town of Ashwood, that street is called Ashwood Lane. At the very end stands an abandoned house, once home to a small radio station in the 1990s. On its final night, in the autumn of 1997, the entire town heard a piercing scream cut through a smooth jazz broadcast. Moments later, the frequency went silent. The DJ on duty was never seen again. Since that night, a rumor spread. If you tune to the old frequency at exactly 3 a.m., you'll hear voices from the other side. Some say they heard footsteps, children laughing, even their own name whispered back to them. Outsiders dismiss it as just another urban legend. But for the people of Ashwood, this story isn't for scaring children. It's a warning. Because those who tuned in swear that after that night, they never slept peacefully again.
My name is Daniel Carter. I'm a freelance journalist, specializing in the kinds of strange stories mainstream outlets never bother with. From mysterious disappearances to forgotten local legends, I spend my time chasing fragments of memory buried in small towns. But one story has haunted me since childhood. In 1997, I was 10 years old. I remember the night Ashwood trembled at the sound of a scream coming from my father's old radio. He had turned it on in the living room, expecting to hear a little jazz before bed. Instead, what we heard was a heart-rending scream, and then silence. My father switched it off immediately, but I never forgot. By morning, the whole town buzzed with rumors. The DJ was missing, his body never found. Nearly 3 decades later, that memory still clings to me, and as I began my career in writing, I knew sooner or later I would return to Ashwood to dig up the truth. People call it the last broadcast. Some say it was a technical glitch, others whisper it was a cover-up for murder. But I wanted to know, was there something more? I reached out to old residents of the town, arranging interviews. They had aged, but in their eyes lingered the same terror when they recalled that night. One elderly woman named Margaret told me, "That night I heard the radio, but the strange thing was it called my name, a man's voice over and over. Margaret, Margaret." I lived alone. I threw the radio out the next morning, never bought another since. I recorded everything, their trembling voices, their tears. No two stories matched exactly, but one thread ran through them all. They swore the sound did not belong to this world. Part of me still doubted, yet another part wanted to believe. And it was that curiosity, that hunger, that brought me back to Ashwood, standing before the house at the end of the frozen street where time itself seemed to have stopped in 1997. I began my investigation at the Ashwood Town Library. The old brick building smelled of damp paper and rotting wood. The librarian, an elderly man with thick glasses, immediately understood when I mentioned the last broadcast. He said little, only leading me down to the basement, where boxes of records from the 1990s were kept. Inside one battered box, I found a leather-bound notebook cracked with age, marked with the name Richard Hale, the missing DJ. His handwriting sprawled across the pages, some neat at first, others scrawled in haste, as if written in darkness. On October 3rd, 1997, he wrote, "Someone is speaking in my headphones, even though the line is dead. The whisper doesn't sound like any caller. It knows my name. It knows things I've never told anyone." A chill ran through me. As I turned the pages, the words degenerated into frantic scratches, as though carved in desperation. The final page contained only 4 words, written in heavy strokes: "No way out." Next to the notebook lay an old cassette labeled Ashwood 103 FM, Oct. 1997. I borrowed an ancient player from the library. At first the tape played soft jazz. Then, a long stretch of silence. Out of nowhere, a whisper surfaced, raspy and hollow, as if echoing from beneath the earth. "You're listening, aren't you? I know you're listening." I froze, slamming the stop button. The tape had been untouched for over 2 decades. So what was that voice? A prank? or the first evidence of something beyond comprehension. Leaving the library, I met with another witness, Mr. Charles, once a technician for the station. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling. "That night," he said, "I was in the control room. I heard the scream in my headset. I rushed to the studio, but it was empty. Just the chair still spinning, like someone had just stood up. And God help me, I swear there was a shadow behind the glass staring right at me." His voice cracked, and he buried his face in his palms. I couldn't comfort him, but inside, the puzzle pieces began to align. The notebook, the tape, the witness, all pointing to the same conclusion. There was something else in that studio that night. I stood before the house at the end of Ashwood Lane on a drizzling afternoon. The wooden frame sagged, shingles collapsing, windows shattered. It looked as if the house had stopped breathing since that night in 1997. Yet I knew it still carried the echoes of what had happened. I brought a recorder, an old AM radio, and a flashlight. The moment I stepped inside, the stench of mold and dust hit me. On one wall hung a rusted sign, Ashwood 103 FM. I pictured DJ Richard Hale sitting here once, spinning records for the town. Now, only a broken swivel chair remained, tilted to the side. I turned on the radio. At first, nothing but static. I twisted the dial, 99, 101, 103. For a brief second, I heard it. Jazz music. Clear, warm, as if live on air. My blood froze. There was no one here. No transmitter had been active in over 2 decades. Yet the music played. Then it stopped. A silence so heavy it pressed on my ears. I leaned closer to the speaker. That's when I heard it. A faint laugh, just behind me. I whipped around, sweeping the flashlight across the room. Nothing. No one. But I swear the swivel chair shuddered, as if someone had just risen from it. My heart hammered. I recorded everything. The flashlight flickered, then died. In the dark, the only sound was the radio's whisper. "Daniel." My name. I bolted outside, gulping the cold rain. It soaked my face, but I didn't care. I knew I had touched something beyond explanation, and I knew more than ever that I couldn't stop now. The deeper I went, the more the mystery pulled me in. Like that night in 1997 had never really ended. I couldn't stop at the edge of fear. Part of me wanted to run from Ashwood forever, but the part haunted since childhood drove me back into the house. The next night, I carried professional recording gear, headphones, and the cassette from the library. Rain hammered the roof, wind howled through broken panes. I sat in the ruined studio, my flashlight casting a dim circle over the rust-stained desk. I slid the cassette into the player, pressed play. The familiar jazz returned, but was soon swallowed by heavy silence. Then came the scream, the very same scream the whole town heard in 1997. It tore through the night, so loud I ripped off the headphones. But the scream wasn't just on tape. It filled the entire room. My recorder shook in my hands as a new voice emerged. Hoarse, venomous, whispering, "You're sitting in my chair." I looked up. Behind the glass, a shadowy figure stood, its face blurred, shrouded in static, but its eyes, black, hollow voids, locked onto mine. The swivel chair beneath me began to vibrate, harder and harder. My headphones clattered to the floor, echoing with Richard Hale's voice. "No way out. No way out." I bolted for the door. It wouldn't budge. The radio on the desk flicked on, dials spinning wildly. And I heard my own voice. The recording I'd made yesterday, playing back word for word. Too late, I realized. This room doesn't just broadcast. It records every soul that enters, replaying them forever. And now, it had added me. In the final moment before the dark consumed me, I heard a chorus, dozens of voices, laughing, crying, screaming, and through it all, my own voice rising above. I never left this place. The next morning I woke up in my car, parked right outside the house. My head throbbed as if I'd endured a nightmare that refused to fade. My recorder lay on the passenger seat. I pressed play. Wind, rain, and then my voice. Not the recording I remembered, but another, longer, distorted. If anyone hears this, warn them. Don't tune the radio at 3 a.m. Don't sit in that chair, because once you hear your own voice played back, it's already too late. I switched it off, my hands trembling. I had no memory of ever speaking those words, yet the voice was unmistakably mine. On my way out of Ashwood, I stopped at a small gas station. The attendant, a middle-aged man, noticed the old radio on my passenger seat. He froze, then asked quietly, "Were you just at Ashwood Lane?" I nodded, silent. He swallowed hard, whispering, "Last night, I turned on my radio. By accident, I tuned to 103 FM. I heard you." The blood in my veins turned to ice. I left in a hurry, but his words clung to me like a curse. I had become part of the last broadcast. And now, if you're hearing this story, remember, don't tune the dial at 3 a.m., don't seek out Ashwood Lane. Because if you hear my voice, maybe, just maybe, you're already the next one.